For many years, at every big event, you would see Mickey Wittman and the Goodyear Blimp. It wasn't a big event unless Mickey was there, whether it was the World Series, the Super Bowl, Indy 500, or US Open golf. There were two constants, Mickey Wittman and the Goodyear Blimp.
The Orange Bowl, luminescent on this golden anniversary night of the Orange Bowl game. The Goodyear Blimp Enterprise from Pompano Beach, Florida, high above the Orange Bowl in Miami. Both the pilot of the Blimp, Don Plaskonik, and his technical coordinator, Mickey Wittman, attended the University of Miami and played for the Hurricanes in the 60s.
And a nod to Mickey Wittman, announced just this week he'll be going into the Sports Broadcasting Hall of Fame this December. Mr. Wittman, regarded by many as the father of all those spectacular sports shots from the Blimp through the years.
I'm Mickey Wittman, and this is my story. I attended the University of Miami in the 60s and played basketball there for 3 years. I was a roommate of Rick Barry. Once he graduated, I was able to take some shots, and I was most valuable player for 2 years there, and then was drafted by the St. Louis Hawks. I did not make the Hawks, but I played in the National Industrial Basketball League with the Goodyear Wingfoots, where I also was a graduate student, and I wrote a story about a pilot who flew a blimp for Howard Hughes. I became enamored of airships, and in Goodyear particular, had the only airship out there. And I lobbied for a job, and this is where the real story begins.
I think when you hear the name Mickey Wittman, and you think about what Mickey Wittman accomplished in our industry, he took something that was kind of a crazy thought, and he really made it into an industry standard, not only in sports, but any event that has a blimp.
When I joined Goodyear in the late 60s, they only had one blimp. It was stationed in Miami. Frank Trachinian had put the first camera in 1961, and you could see that there was a great deal of potential. But the problems were enormous. The first camera went in was a studio camera that weighed close to 500 pounds. It was a tripod, it had to be bolted down. Microwave was extremely rudimentary, and also there was no frame synchronizer. So consequently, when the picture went on the air, it rolled. But the network still loved the picture. They could see that there was a huge upside to this, showing a full stadium or showing a golf course. So this is where the real adventure begins for me, when I try to upgrade this into broadcast quality aerials.
Mickey has been a lifetime friend of mine. He's got a great personality, that big, infectious laugh, and he has great passion for everything he does in life. His success can truly be attributed to his willingness to take creative chances. He's always there working with the producers and directors, trying to bring that unique, new view to the sports that he's been covering.
My role with Goodyear was simply to be a facilitator. I went to the networks and tried to figure out how I could enhance the coverage, how I could get better microwave, what kind of new cameras there were. But I always knew that the blimp needed to get on the field. It needed to follow golf balls. It needed to follow horses. It needed to follow plays in football. That was the holy grail, and I always searched for a camera that could do that.
It started with cameras suspended by bungee cords in the doorway and 50-pound transmitters. Now it's stabilized cameras providing play action. We've come a long way, Mickey. But what is often overlooked is the role you played in setting up the business model. Those blimp pops provided the sponsor with a way to measure the return on their investment and helped offset the cost of aerials to the network.
Most people in the audience will remember me as the person always yelling for the blimp pop in the truck, and that was an integral part of the program for Goodyear. While I was there, Goodyear was spending close to $20 million a year to run the 3 airships. It was vital that we got the airtime back with the Goodyear mentions, and I thank everyone in the audience for putting up with that.
There's always advancements in sports television, but aerial photography has been one of the great ones. You talk about one thing that can make an event look big, it's having a blimp or an airplane there, and Mickey was at the forefront of that, and he was a great partner. He understood that having his facilities there would make both his company look better, obviously, and your event look better. And for that, we'll be forever grateful. And he was just a pleasure to be with and a joy to be around.
The blimp became a huge deal because of national TV. Well, we would receive telephone calls from the mayors, the Chamber of Commerce, requesting the blimp in a city to cover a game. It wasn't a big event unless the blimp was there, and I guess that's part of my legacy.
Today, there is aerial coverage at every big sporting event. And to a large extent, that is true because of the creativity and the implementation of aerial coverage by one Mickey Wittman. If it weren't for Mickey, you wouldn't be seeing all this incredible aerial coverage that we've all become very used to seeing.
From 1968 to the mid-'80s, Goodyear was the only company doing aerial photography, and I was the only person covering it. I did over 2,500 events in a lifetime, but during that particular time, I would cover college football on Saturday, the NFL on Sunday, and Monday Night Football. Extraordinary times. For 25 years, I traveled over 300 days a year covering events.
Maybe the most memorable moment in blimp history was the '89 Earthquake Series, and Mickey was there with his crew. It was a marquee sporting event that turned into a national news story. The blimp had the first live, compelling, dramatic pictures of the devastation of downtown San Francisco, and Mickey was there with us, day in, day out, for several days. And it was those pictures that I actually think saved lives.
One of my most memorable moments was 1989 and the World Series in San Francisco, where we came on the air to an earthquake. It was an extraordinary time, and we were able to stay up aloft almost 15 consecutive hours, in which we alerted the city about what bridges were out, and we consequently were able to save lives. And this really changed how blimps were viewed.
Mickey, you've been a Hall of Famer in my book since the early '80s. I mean, one of the nicest people that I've ever met in television, and someone that was always looking to make our shows look better and feel better.
Looking back at my career, the reality far exceeded whatever dreams I had when I started. To be able to travel the world for 40 years and to do as many broadcasts as I did, I was an extremely lucky person.
Mickey Wittman is a Hall of Famer. He's been a Hall of Famer for many, many years. He created something in our industry that will live on for as long as there's television and as long as people are covering sports. As the father of aerial coverage, Mickey Wittman is truly a Hall of Famer.